Hello and welcome to Mineral Art Maestros, the place where we talk everything mineral art. I am your host, Rebecca Johnston, and I'm so glad you could join me today. I want to walk you through my most epic art challenge to date, which was painting the third permanent mural in the Tucson Mineral City Show in Tucson, Arizona. I want to walk you through my process of creating my concept to the steps it took to complete this epic journey in just 6 short days. So, saddle in and come join me for my epic tale.
This massive 20 by 24 foot canvas was painted in only 6 days using a mix of flat latex and spray paint. Starting from concept to finished mural, I want to walk you through my process, my experiments with acrylic as a new medium, and how I managed to finish such a crazy endeavor in less than a week. I was connected to the Tucson Mineral City Show last year when I had almost all of my original mineral artwork shipped off to be displayed in a few select showrooms during their yearly show. My showcase Light and Shadow had works featured in the showrooms of Rocky Krichbaum, Zak Bell, and Reed Allen. This collaboration was a huge turning point in my career as a mineral artist and brought me invaluable connections in the community. Rocky was kind enough to connect me with Sutton, one of the owners of Mineral City, and before I knew it, we were on the phone making a deal. I was going to be the third mineral artist to have a permanent mural on the Art Corridor Alley at the Tucson Mineral City Show. Woohoo! This was definitely a dream come true for me. I was equally excited and terrified at such a challenge. Not only would I be traveling far from home, which I never do, learning a new medium, and scaling it to such heights, I would be doing it all in just 5 days. Since it was only a few months away, I really needed to act fast. I began by creating a few digital mock-ups to get my concept going. I knew I wanted to collaborate with a mineral collector or photographer in the community, so I started reaching out to folks for references, took some photos of my collection myself, and eventually had some good options to play with. I initially created a super complex and colorful layout, which I soon decided would have been way too complex for the time I had, and I decided I also wanted a simpler color palette. I ended up choosing a composition which included a naturalite cluster from Morocco, a beautiful amethyst from Guerrero, Mexico, both photos taken by photographer Albert Russ and someone I've collaborated with before. The final piece I chose was a stunner pyrite from Spain, captured by and in the collection of Joe George, who's a fellow Washington miner and collector. Once I had my scaled mock-up complete, I could start painting it on a smaller scale and began figuring out how to work in a completely new way. I started practicing acrylic painting on wood panels to start getting a feel for realism in flat paint. I had never painted minerals in acrylic before, and it was definitely a challenge. But after a few small paintings, it started to finally click. I also did some experiments with spray paint for those minty green lines on the composition, which gave a loose, smooth quality, and I was able to add a bit of abstract motion to the piece. I really wanted it to have movement since it would be on such a huge scale. On my first practice painting, I took some time to figure out ways to paint that made sense in a larger scale, trying not to get too hung up on those tiny details like I'm used to on all my smaller drawings. The next and final mural practice was the full composition, and I tried to be quick with my application without compromising my vision. I still wanted the mural to have my realism style, but have a slightly more abstract feel, and to be able to scale up to such a giant canvas. It was finally time to fly out to Tucson and get painting, and I could not wait to get started. When we got to the site morning one, I decided that I could not wait to paint and didn't have time to do a full grid method to get my sketch down. So I did some quick scaled math from my reference and laid out the large diagonal lines with just my 2-inch by 24-inch ruler. I just knew I had to start there and that would take up most of the daylight hours, after which I could set up the projector and get the rest of my sketch up. We got the large scaffolding out, and I was able to get most of my sketch up that night. Unfortunately, we were still working on a solution to get me up high enough to complete the top of my sketch. I would just have to begin with what I could reach and move forward. Time was moving super fast already. I got a great start on the Naturalite crystals using my straight edge tool with brushes and the transparency of the inside of the crystals with a watered down dry brush technique. After mixing out all of my paint colors, I moved on to begin blocking out the amethyst base with sponges and latex paint. I managed to get some of the details and the small crystals finished on the amethyst before calling it a night. I was completely homesick, stressed out, sleep deprived, and had been on my feet for approximately 14 straight hours. I was exhausted and ready to hit the hay. So I threw some supplies on our cart, tucked it behind the lock gate, and headed to bed. So the next morning, when we got to the site, I had realized that someone had scaled the locked and barbed wired fence to take an inconspicuous box that held all of my paintbrushes and small tools. Every brush I needed to continue had been stolen. With such a setback on what was already a project pressed for time, I decided I needed to extend my trip one more day to be able to complete everything. It was definitely a blow to my spirit, and I had to replace all the stolen tools, but I carried on and made the best of it. I had some trouble mixing certain colors to get some of the brighter details in the amethyst, so I decided to get a few spray paints to get those colors to really pop. As soon as I began spraying, I knew this was the direction that the rest of the mural had to go in. The soft, smooth textures of the spray paint and the layering of colors was just what I needed to get the transparent feel and glassy textures of the minerals. Even though the day started off really rough, this was just the mid-project inspiration that I needed to push me through to the end. I stayed up late into the night, hand-cutting custom stencils out of poster board with a box cutter so that I could get all the small shapes, lines, phantoms, and surface textures with my spray paints, and I was really enjoying the process. I really love experimentation, and so it kept my spirits up and awakened the project with new ideas. Day 4, I got in touch with Alan Knox, who works for Mineral City, and he helped me with a lift to get me up to complete the top of the amethyst and the rest of the composition. I was so grateful that I finally had a way to complete my vision. Yay! It was not for the faint of heart, though. The height and the rocking motion of the lift was somewhat unsettling, but it did the job. I had a mobile paint studio in the sky, and I was ready to go. I kept going strong, finishing the top of the amethyst and extending the geometric lines, and then blocking out the pyrite base late into the night on day 5. I only had a few hours the next day to finish everything and head home to the airport. Honestly, the last day is a bit of a blur as I was running on pure adrenaline, panic, and determination. I was furiously juggling spray paint cans left and right, stencil swapping here and there, and getting paint on as fast as I could, all while trying to give my very best work. I put my last sprays of white over the Naturalite to give it a really soft glow, and then Graham called me an Uber to get me to the airport with just enough time to sign my work. So I took one final look and said goodbye to my mural, leaving it with touch-ups that needed to be done and more tweaking that I would have refined. However, I was pretty happy with the final outcome, and most importantly, I was really ready to get off my feet, see my boyfriend and our cats, and get some much-needed rest. You can pick up any of my mineral art merch, art stickers, prints, and lots more on my website, rjartwear.com. I'd love to see you there, and I have lots of coupons and sales going on, so check that out. And the easiest way you can show your support is by following my social media accounts. That's at RJ Artwear on Instagram and Rebecca Johnston or RJ Artwear on Facebook. If you ever would like a portrait done of your favorite mineral in your collection, I have calendar space opening up in February of 2024 for custom paintings, and all I need to get started is a deposit and a reference photo. I have an article coming out soon by Mark Mauthner in Rocks and Minerals magazine, which should be released early this year, so keep your eyes out for that.
I would also like to thank Mineral Nation for being our gracious hosts. Please check out their website at mineralnation.com for all of your in-depth mineral knowledge needs. And please like and subscribe to show us your support. If you have any suggestions for mineral artists you'd like us to interview, any topics of conversation, or any suggestions, send us a message or comment below. All of the links will be in the description, so please check those out. And thank you so much for joining Mineral Art Maestros. Have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.